Oh, there's Rob. Could say we have a quorum and we are live on HCAM. Rob, we have a quorum and we are live on HCAM. So we're ready to get going.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm going to start by reading off the remote meeting script, and we'll just jump into our agenda. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting via virtual means. Participants may access this meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hand or otherwise signaling their intent to speak. This meeting will be recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you have been recognized by the chair. We will now confirm attendance of members. Please respond with present if you're on the call. Elise Mayalowski. Lucia Lopez.
Present.
Matthew Ronca.
Present.
Michael King. He said he wasn't going to be here. Parker Happ.
Present.
Jane Moran.
Present.
Karen Wills.
Present.
Vikasath Prati.
Present.
And Rob Benson is here. And John Gelsich.
Present.
And Lori St. John.
Present.
All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. Let's just jump into our agenda. All right. So I don't know if anyone's like I said, I'm sure you saw the Economic Development Committee proposal on the agenda. So let me just give you my synopsis here. The select board, I'm sure, gets continuous feedback that taxes are too high, taxes are going up. Hey, what can we do to minimize the tax burden? So they're looking at putting together a economic development committee and have one member of the planning board on it as a representative. John, did you have anything to add?
Just that they were looking to get feedback from the board if we're looking to have a board member or just a designee of the board or some other format of some type of representation on whatever board this may turn out to be. And so they're looking for comments or feedback or questions or anything like that from the planning board about that.
All right. I put together a couple slides. If I could share my screen, I put together a couple slides of like, this is just taken from the select board meeting there where our revenue comes from, but if I can share. So is everybody seeing this?
Yes.
So this is just from in our Google, the town, hopkintonmass.gov. There's a folder in the Google Drive for fiscal year 2026 budget, and I took this from that folder. It's the most recent kind of update from March 7th. So here, like we got row one, our levy base, 2 new growth, 3 debt exclusions. All the way through item 6. So if you basically look at items, rows 5 and 6 here, get 106 million plus 11.4. Anyways, it equates to about 118 million in revenue from property tax, roughly. You can see some of the other big drivers of where our revenue comes from, or to fund our operating budget, is state aid. So row 7, we get 12 million from the state, minus I don't really understand like all these regional and state program charges, but it nets out to about 12 million from the state. Then the town gets 6.7 million from excise tax, licenses, building permits, fees, etc. across the town. And anyways, it comes up with like a net intake of money to the town of almost $138 million. So when you look at like the 118 of the 138 coming from fundamentally property tax, 85% of that revenue, of the town's revenue, is coming from property tax, approximately. And so the total valuation of the town, like all the property in the town, the total assessed value is 6.75 billion, where 83% is residential at 5.6 billion, and industrial commercial is about 1.15 billion. And so for fiscal year 2025, which is going to be coming to an end here in a month or two, couple months, the average single family home had a tax bill of $13,025. Condominium, the average condo owner had a tax bill of $10,540. So this is the backdrop of like they've had a talk about economic development officer, and really things that don't change in the sources, things that don't change or that they really don't have control over necessarily, is state aid. I don't know how much control they have over excise taxes and building permit fees and other fees, parks and rec fees, all the fees they collect throughout the town. So when I look at an economic development officer, really the only way to change this, this is from 83% of the town coming from residential property tax, to decrease that is fundamentally more commercial buildings, more commercial property. And so that's what the select board is kind of thinking, that we need an economic development advisory board. They've talked about trying to hire someone in for economic development. So I guess I just open it up to all the board members. Do you have any first thoughts or opinions on how any of us could potentially be helpful?
Through the chair, I have a couple thoughts.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not on camera. Yeah, so I think that's spot on. And when you think about the trade-offs, like people want to try to defer more of the cost of our tax burden to commercial, but I think the question is that the appetite of the town? And I was in advance of the meeting looking into this principle called Georgianism that I thought was interesting. And so there was this, it's essentially this idea of land ownership, and how, what if we try and make better utilization of the existing commercial space that we have and create incentives to bring revenue from that existing zoning. And so the idea would be, perfect example is so the principal theorist basically saw New York City back in like, I think it was like the late 1800s or something like that. And he thought that there would be this vast amount of economic growth that was occurring, and there would be, essentially like tenements and then property that was undeveloped, where the property, if it were residential area, could take some of the urban squalor and try, basically give places for people to live that they otherwise didn't have any. And the idea is the people that had that commercial land that weren't developing it, or the people that had the land that weren't developing it, were essentially creating wealth for themselves, but at the behest of the rest of the community. And so I know up and down South Street, or even, there's that lot that's near Dunks, where, we have zoned area that isn't being developed. So how do you create incentives to try and get it developed, or try and increase, the amount of, or reduce the amount of vacant tenancy in some of these areas? And like the simplest answer is like use taxation, because as these properties continue to maintain, or as these properties continue to be either vacant or non-developed, they are still appreciating in terms of perceived value or value intrinsically. And so increasing the tax burden on these different properties until they are either A, not vacant, or B, developed into something, takes the existing zoning that we have and creates incentives to use the most of it before we have to make decisions like, do we put a gas station or a zone for something, or maybe. But that was something I thought was kind of interesting. It's called Georgism, and could be a way for us to non-disruptively use existing zoning and grow our way out of the problem.
Thanks, Parker.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Vic.
Quick clarification. I mean, I'm just trying to understand this from a commercial point of view. So, like, we know there's a lot of South Street, a lot of business zone is vacant. So, does that mean if it's vacant that they don't pay taxes, or is it the tax might change something?
No, so
80 South Street has been vacant for almost like what, 6-7 years right now, or maybe more. Yeah.
The property value doesn't change whether it's vacant or not. So they're still paying taxes. So Dell EMC, I think, owns 88 South Street, and they're still paying taxes on the building.
Right. So,
But if it's vacant, Vic, and nobody's there, that means there's fewer people potentially eating at restaurants in Hopkinton,
no,
or fewer people that are consuming potential goods and services around here. So having more folks to those commercial areas could increase our overall retail tax and try to show growth that way. That's just kind of the thought behind it.
Well,
absolutely.
I think it's so any of those businesses, commercial businesses that are needed to support, I'd say big office buildings, they're really paying property tax as well. That we're not getting like sales receipt taxes for that. We get a 0.75% meals tax that the select board just voted in this year. And that passed at the special town meeting just in November, but there's no like the town, like if I go buy I don't know, a candy bar at Price Chopper, like the town doesn't get any revenue from that. Just to be clear, like they get the property tax revenue from the building and the infrastructure being there.
To the chat, just somebody asked the same question. They said yes, candy bar doesn't give it, but it has that food bar, which is there where you have this wings and everything, which they do it. If you take that, it seems they charge meals tax on that. So there's some division on it. During the town meeting, they clarified it, but we might have it. But anyway, so my clarification was that, are we trying to, this economic development company would be focusing on the existing empty lots, or they're trying to see how we can introduce new zoning for businesses? So that's what I am just trying to understand. How is that going to play that?
I think they're trying. I think ultimately they're trying to leave it up to form a new board in combination with, either a planning board member or a designee of the planning board. And I think that's ultimately what we need to decide tonight.
Okay.
And some members of the, what's the, I'm not even remembering the committee, but, some other members of, in town, of different organizations to try to form a board to basically come up with ideas and concepts, gather public feedback of what the town would like to see in terms of economic development, and try to I think present a vision. I guess my overall thinking. So here's my opinion. I look at the numbers here, and we have 1.15 billion of commercial industrial property in Hopkinton. So if we increase that by 50% to about 1.8 billion, and we could just shift where the tax dollars come from, that would impact basically people's property tax. It would lower people's property tax by about $1,500. So I think that's one of the things this board would look at is there an appetite in town to try to increase our commercial industrial base of assessed properties that would materially move the tax burden from residential to industrial and commercial. Also, in the next 5 years, everybody's taxes are going to be going up significantly because we as a town at our town meetings voted to for debt exclusions to fund a lot of new schools: Charleswood, Marathon, Hopkins School Addition, modular classrooms at Elmwood, modular classrooms at Hopkins renovation. And I personally think those are all good things. I think I voted for all those at the town meeting. So, but now as a property owner, it's going to impact my tax bill as well as everybody else's. So I think they're trying to offset some of that. But I don't know, like my personal opinion, and like I don't know that there's any immediate fix to get a large swath of commercial development to offset people's tax bills in the next 5 years, like commercial development in a meaningful way to impact people's tax bills in the town of Hopkinton is like a 20-year, in my opinion, it's a 20-year, 30-year endeavor. Like,
Through the chair, I agree with you, and I think you have to look in terms of planning and like what open space is there in areas that are advantageous for growth that you could then incentivize. And I think for my eyes, aside from like down Lumber Street, kind of where like the firing range is, there's few properties that represent immediate areas that you could, develop with any, degree of expediency that wouldn't otherwise require like demolition of, existing structures that are also close to, main thoroughfares, for whatever that's worth. But I agree with your assessment.
Jane was trying to talk.
oh, Jane, go ahead.
Um,
I'm going to stop
I think
sharing here
that-
so I can see everybody.
I think that anything we can do to help relieve the burden of the residential taxpayers would be appreciated. I look at all those empty buildings on South Street and can only help but think that the Chamber of Commerce combined with an economic development committee working together to try and figure out what kind of businesses do we want to have in those properties and take a more forward approach to the planning. And yeah, it might take a few years, but we have to start somewhere. We already have an economic developer officer in town, and I'm sure she could help with this committee. I think it's a great idea and I would support it.
All right. I don't think we need to talk about this much more. I think we just need to come to a decision if we want to, how we feel as board members. Do we think we want it to be, we have to basically decide if we want it to be a member of the planning board or a designee of the planning board. And I guess a designee of the planning board technically, I think still could be a planning board member, but we can limit it
I'd
to
feel
just
like a
planning board.
liaison person, I believe.
Go ahead, Matthew.
I was wondering if we knew if this was intended to be a standing committee or a short-term committee, because that might change how flexible we want to be with the specification.
I did not see any guidance on that. I think they're looking at it long term. The select board's looking at it long term, but I don't know if you know any additional information, John.
No, I don't know their plans for that.
I mean, most flexible would seem to be a member of the planning board or a designee, just to make it most flexible.
All right. If we're all in favor, if we're all in support of that, I'd like, I think, I don't know if I need to make a motion here, but I think maybe we just vote on it anyway. I'd like to entertain a motion that we recommend, that we basically make it a member of the planning board or a designee of the planning board. So we have the flexibility to do either. And we ultimately get to decide.
So moved.
Second,
Thanks. Roll call vote. Elise Mailowski,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Michael King. Oh yeah, he's not here. Parker,
Yes.
Jane Moran,
yes.
Karen Wills,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right, thanks. I decided I wanted just to try to put some numbers because it's not an easy. There's no I think the select board is trying to be responsive to people's concerns about the taxes and taxes going up. But there's no magic silver bullet to change the kind of the landscape of where property tax revenue comes from in a meaningful way. It takes time, or at least that's my opinion. And the question is, does the residents of town want to vote and support any zoning changes to help for commercial and industrial property to be developed? And I think that's obviously going to come down to town meeting votes. All right, moving on to our next agenda item. What do we need? We just have to schedule the meeting for April 28th. What's the story here?
So we had a meeting scheduled for the 21st. That would be the next one that falls in line, but that's a holiday. That's Patriots Day, Marathon Monday. So the next meeting after April 7th would be town meeting. So I wanted to check in before I scheduled something to see if the board wanted to hold that meeting or reschedule it for April 28th. So that there is a meeting in between April 7th and town meeting. I didn't want to go about and schedule without anybody knowing.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to have a meeting on Patriots Day. So I think everybody, I don't know. I know
I don't think
don't.
legally we can.
Well, so that solves that problem. I think we should schedule a meeting for April 28th. That's the last meeting, but like I think going April 7th all the way to town meeting is probably not a good idea.
Town meeting is May 5th, so it'd basically be a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on this or
No, just wanted to get some feedback.
does
Make sure we're
anyone have any issues with that?
To the chair. So this means that we have April 28th and May 5th, like within a week.
Well, May
Or
5th
that the
is town
schedule
meeting.
start changing across again from May
5th is the town meeting.
May 5th is the town meeting. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yep. That's all. Thank you.
All right. I think we're good for hold a meeting on April 28th.
And then something else not on the agenda. The proponent for the South Street rezoning has requested that the article be removed from the warrant. So the planning board is the sponsor and would have to vote to remove it. We got this request on Friday. The agenda was already posted. Planning board is going to have a meeting on the 7th before the select board signs the warrant. So it's not really an emergency item because the planning board will meet again before the deadline. So I just wanted to give you all a heads up that is coming on the 7th. They've requested to get it taken off of the warrant. There still is time. So the board would have to decide if it wants to vote to remove it from the warrant. on the 7th.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right, thanks. I find that interesting, but we maybe should probably have the discussion on the 7th. All right. Meeting minutes, moving on to 1.3 on our agenda, meeting minutes for March 10th, 2025. Anyone have, oh, Lucia, go ahead.
I did send an edit, and I think Lori edited the minutes, so I don't know what everyone saw, but if you read the amended minutes, that includes the edit. And it was just a change on page 3 where it said I was referring to a paper road, and what I meant was the strip abutting Hayward Street. So that's just a change, and I think if everyone read that, then I think we would approve the amended meeting minutes. Vote to approve that versus the minutes as amended. I'm not sure.
I think we can, is there any other feedback for the minutes? Matthew, go ahead.
To clarify, so that's Ms. Lopez asked if the 10-foot green strip on the plan referred to as paper road. It's striking the paper road bit because it wasn't the road but the strip. Is that what the change is?
Yeah, so it strikes the paper road and it inserts abutting Hayward Street.
Thank you.
Any other requested changes? So I'd like to entertain a motion with the proposed changes from Lucia. I'd like to make a motion with those proposed changes to approve the meeting minutes for March 10th, 2025.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Second.
I think, Lori, are you good? Did you get a first and a second?
I did.
All right. Elise Mielowski,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Jane Moran,
Yes.
Karen Wills,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is yes. All right, new item 2 on our agenda, new public hearings 0 and 109 Winter Street, special permit for common driveway and storm water management permit. So I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing for 0 and 109 Winter Street for a special permit and stormwater management permit.
So moved.
Thanks, Matthew.
Second.
Thanks, Vic. Roll call vote. Elise Mielowski,
Sorry. Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Jane Moran,
Yes.
Karen Wills,
Yes.
Rob Benson is a yes, and Vic.
It's a yes.
All right, thank you. Joe, are you gonna are you kicking us off with an introduction here?
Yes, I'd like to.
Great.
Evening, folks. Joe Marquardt. My firm prepared the plans associated with this filing. It'd be possible to share my screen or throw up the site plans?
Yes, I think John gave you ability to do that.
We all see that?
Yep.
Okay. What we are talking about is R16-230, this 4.4 acre parcel on the easterly side of Winter Street, about maybe 3/8 of a mile north of Pond Street. It is owned by H. Long Corp., which Frank Zhu and Sally Lou, husband and wife. They are the applicants. This is the topographical survey of the parcel. The majority of the site is a mixture of woodlands and wetlands through here. There is an existing home number 109 at this location. Residential, a small yard, septic system. The driveway comes in down here, close to the northerly boundary line, and accesses the home like this. There's a short area to turn around, additional parking right through there. The parcel, the 4.4 acres, is bisected by this intermittent stream that generally flows southeast to northwest and on to Lake Whitehall. It shares a boundary line with the town forest, and the grades flow moderately to steeply from this common boundary with the town forest to the intermittent stream channel, and from Winter Street easterly to the intermittent stream channel. So it all kind of flows to the middle and feeds that channel. This one has a bit of a backstory. This parcel has been in existence for quite some time. The owners obtained an order of conditions, a permit from the Conservation Commission in 2017, May of 2017. The order of conditions has been extended several times and is still in effect and valid for the site. The policy at the time was both the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission were operating under the same bylaws, had the same goals in mind, were using the same peer review, Beta Group. So whichever group took the lead, they would see stormwater through. This had no Planning Board involvement in 2017, so the Conservation Commission took control of the process, and they developed a stormwater mitigation system for the site. And that's what has been happening since. No work has started on the project due to health problems, loss of employment. COVID was a huge problem for the start of construction. So it sits in a natural state. Things have kind of changed policy-wise. The Planning Board, as you know, is now in control of stormwater review, whether it's primarily a conservation project or any of the board. This board is in charge. And things on our side of the table have changed too. Stormwater intensity, frequency, how we develop stormwater mitigation plans has all changed. So it makes sense to seek a new permit, even though a system for stormwater mitigation did come with that original approval. And don't get me wrong, we don't dispute the fact that we need to file. We're disturbing 60,000 odd square feet of area, well above the 1 acre threshold, the 43,560. So we need a stormwater management permit. So we developed the filing and these plans in support of that. And it's a mix. We're trying to utilize elements of that original plan from 2017 to utilize the existing driveway and then branch off at this location to the home. We want to maintain that box culvert location to span that stream, because that is the most narrow point on the side of the stream and the associated bordering vegetated wetlands. So we do the least damage by maintaining that same crossing point. The home is still at the rear, very near the rear boundary line, that common line with the town forest, a little bit northerly of where it used to be, but in that same general area. And we still will have a drinking water well to the north of the home and a septic disposal system to the southwest of the home. But there are many differences. We have examined all of this from Winter Street to the rear boundary line. We have changed the driveway orientation, shortened it, and eliminated some pavement. This driveway used to swing up here, and there was a teardrop turnaround, which created a lot of excess impervious area. That is now gone. The driveway accesses to the home here. We developed this infiltration basin and a closed drainage system to get our stormwater either overland or via piping to this location here, incorporated a basin that wasn't on the original design. And we've moved our grading outside of the 50-foot buffer zone wherever possible. There was an awful lot of grading before down adjacent to the driveway. Now we feel that these changes will bring us more in line with the Conservation Commission's regulations as we move through this. This originally was one 4.4 acre parcel. The board may remember back in February, we talked about a land swap between 109 and 111. 109 picked up this small area of frontage here. That allowed the creation of a second lot. So now we have 109 sitting on lot C with a boundary line in here, and the larger lot, lot D, but our purposes, I'll call 107 Winter. 107 and 109 will now be separate. I was in, the board reviewed and approved an A&R for that swap back in February of 2025. We're starting to pull all that together. The actions in 2017 to replace their failing septic system eliminated a piece of driveway. They used to have the option of entering here and coming around and making a circular drive in that direction and coming back out against the northerly edge, right around the overflow parking turnaround area. That change to septic system has eliminated most of that driveway. All that's left is a small apron inside the right-of-way of Winter Street. The rest is either lawn or septic system. So with our Hopkinton zoning bylaws that require a driveway that accesses over your own frontage, 109 would be left with no driveway. So the approach was either build their own driveway up this steep slope to Winter Street, approach the Board of Appeals looking for relief from the zoning regulation, or file with this board for a common driveway special permit. Frank and Sally have asked me to seek a special permit to utilize this driveway for both 109 and the home in the rear, 107. We hope to discuss both the stormwater management and the common drive special permit at the same time. Expedite the issues, be as efficient as possible. That's the reason that the two are grouped together. The plans are trying to serve both permits. They're trying to incorporate information for both permits in these plans. So you see the grading on the site plan, you see the stormwater mitigation in the filing is the calculations to support all the choices we've made with basin size and grading. In the package is erosion and sedimentation controls and guidance. There's an analysis of access of emergency vehicles from Winter Street to the dwelling and turning and leaving the site from the dwelling back to Winter Street. An analysis, I guess, in support of the common drive with analysis from both locations. If we were to try and revitalize that apron, how would it look? If we were to utilize the common drive, which we think is a safer and a better choice, that stuff is in there, as well as construction details for everything that we're going to build. What we're trying to do is illustrate compliance with the planning board requirements for both the stormwater management and the common drive. Because this one's a little murky, I thought I'd just take a second to recap where things sit. As I said a moment ago, the order of conditions is current and valid. I met with Judy Day and Anna Rogers over at Conservation, and the game plan is to see this part of the process through, develop a cohesive site plan, and then revisit it with the Conservation Commission. If it falls, in their opinion, within the bounds of the original approval, perhaps we can issue some kind of project change. If they feel it goes too far, strays too far from that original approval, we'll have to amend that order of conditions with the board. Well, that will come after this process. There is a federal permit that was applied for in 2018. That will have to be updated due to the changes. And Hopkinton Health Department does not have a valid plan for septic disposal and well placement. So that's another issue that needs to be updated. As I mentioned a moment ago, There's been analysis of emergency vehicles. We have met with the fire department on a couple of occasions, have incorporated their suggestions on how to make this more appealing to them so that they can be assured that they can get in and out of this site. So we feel we made an awful lot of progress. We realize that there are several steps left to go, but this seemed like the natural first step was to iron out this site grading, obtain this permit, and then move and tick off the others. So that is a brief summary from a very high view. Be happy to dive into any topic in more detail should the board want to explore any of these items.
Thanks, Joe. I think the next step would be just John, if you could give us your perspective of the project, and then we can maybe get into questions.
Yeah, Joe made a pretty comprehensive discussion at the beginning. So, it's just pretty straightforward. They're trying to build another house lot. They've A&R'd this property, and they've got stormwater management that they've got to go to for area and slope. We've gotten one letter from the peer review consultant back. I think I sent it over to the applicant at the end of last week, so probably haven't had a chance to really get into it. But not a ton of comments. If I remember correctly, the peer review consultant is also on the call if the board has any questions. But yes, pretty straightforward application, needing a special permit for shared driveway and stormwater management permit.
Okay. The letter from our peer review consultant isn't in the folder, is it yet?
I thought I put it in there. Maybe I didn't.
From T and Bond, it's in there. Yeah.
It is in there?
It is. It looks like there's a few documents that are duplicated, but that one is also in there.
Yeah, Kobe and I put documents in there, so we probably each put the same thing in.
Okay. All right. Is it Jean Christie? Jean, would you like to give us a update from Ty and Bond's your perspective?
Sure. Hi, everyone. For the record, Jean Christie, Principal Engineer with Ty and Bond. As John mentioned, we did perform our review. We did get it out a little later than I wanted to last week. But there wasn't a lot of comments. A lot of them are really pretty technical in nature regarding the stormwater management system. I don't need to go through all of them because they're probably really not terribly exciting for you. But I don't think any of them are going to substantially change the current design of the project. I think there were minor things that we noted, but generally all the approaches there. I can't think of anything looking through here that is a big enough deal to really talk about. So unless there's something specific that anybody saw in the peer review that you wanted to talk about, happy to dive into it more. But I think Joe and I could probably work later this week whenever he gets an opportunity to really dive into them and answer any questions he has.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Let me open it up to the board. Does the board have any questions for Jean from Ty and Bond, John, or Joe on this project? One question I have on the site, Joe. What is the grade level change? It's like I've jogged around Lake Maspinock that like I don't even know how many times in my life, and as a kid I used to call that hill Snake Hill. Some other people maybe still do, and I've jogged up that hill thousands of times. What's the grade change on this parcel or parcels?
I see 129 at the easterly boundary line with the town forest. The stream channel at its lowest is about 90, and then back up, anywhere from 108 to 120 at Winter Street. So it's pretty steep.
Yep. Okay, so we typically at this point in our discussions, we try to schedule a site walk, and then we get into the bulk of the discussion after we've actually seen the project on the ground, and then we can hopefully move quickly through the rest of our outline. What is the board's appetite for a site walk? Is this they generally think that's a good idea? What's everyone's opinion?
I think it's always a good idea to have a site walk.
All right. I think that's what I'd like to do as well, is try to schedule a site walk, have the board see the property. And then if you're amenable to continuing this to our next hearing, we can get it on our agenda and try to go through the bulk of the application at our next hearing. I don't know how this upcoming weekend works for the board. It does not work for me, but I'm not the only one on the board. So this weekend or next weekend, I think are our options if we want to get it done before our next meeting. Go ahead, Matthew.
We've had some pretty poor turnout at a lot of our site walks, so I think trying to find a time that is amenable to most of the board would make sense, so that we could hopefully have most of us attend.
Yeah, I'm as guilty as anybody. My kids' sports schedule, like, I don't usually know until very last minute with the tournaments they play in. But what about anybody else on the board? Is the weekend generally a good time? We typically have tried to hold them on Saturday morning, but if that doesn't work for the majority, we can try to find another time.
Through the chair.
Go ahead, Lucia.
I think that first Saturday in April looks good. I know soccer starts the following Saturday, at least for my kiddo it does, so that's fairly open.
All right, let me suggest Saturday, April 5th, 9 a.m. Joe, are you available at that time?
Works for me, yes.
All right. Does anybody know right now that doesn't work? Like, everybody's schedule can change, obviously, but I think let's go with that, and we'll try to encourage everyone to attend that can make it.
Where would be a good place to meet?
Joe, is 109 occupied right now? Could we park in the driveway, or where do you recommend parking?
There's a small trailhead, holds 3 or 4 cars opposite the driveway, and there'd be 6 or 8 cars could fit in the drive. So either right opposite the site or in the site driveway would work.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions before we let Joe and Jean go for tonight?
Is there a turnaround on the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. And then I also noticed that there were a few extra people on the call, so I didn't know if somebody came for public comment.
Yeah, I can open it up. Is there anybody on the call that has any public comments about this project?
Hi, my name is Andy Lindeman. I'm here with my son, who's a scout with Troop 4, and we're trying to work on one of his merit badge requirements to attend a public meeting.
Okay, great. All right. I'd like to, do I need to continue the decision or just continue the public hearing till our next meeting?
So we have about a week after the next meeting until the decision is due. So you just have to continue the hearing, and then next meeting we'll have to continue the decision.
All right. I'd like to make entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 0 and 109 Winter Street for a special permit for a common driveway and stormwater management permit.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Lucia,
Yes.
Matthew Ronca.
Yes.
Oh, I missed you, Elise. Elise, I'm sorry. Elise.
That's okay. Yes.
All right. Parker,
Yes.
Jane Moran,
Yes.
Karen Wills,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right, Joe, we'll do our best to see you Saturday morning, April 5th at 9 a.m.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
So that covers our agenda. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn for this evening.
So before we do, Rob, we do technically have a meeting scheduled before town meeting still on the 5th. Although if we vote to withdraw the motion, we might cancel that ahead of time. Is that right?
Typically the meeting of May 5th is we usually decide the meeting right before if we're gonna meet or not. That's been my prior experience. So I think if we have the meeting on the 28th, we can decide that day if we feel there's any last minute need to convene right before the meeting. I think that gives us enough time if everybody's okay with that.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Matthew. All right. So would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Thank you. Roll call vote. Elise Mayalowski,
Yes.
Lucia Lopez,
Yes.
Matthew Ronca,
Yes.
Parker Happ,
Yes.
Jane Moran,
Yes.
Karen Wills,
Yes.
Vikasath Prati,
Yes.
and Rob Benson is a yes. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.